Hey everybody, it's Tim Shea with the Shea Group Realty of Keller Williams in Beverly, Massachusetts. I'm here with another freeze frame market snapshot with some key numbers to tell you how the market is doing. When people say to me, Tim, how is the market doing? Well, that really depends on whether you're buying or whether you're selling. And the information that I have here that I'm going to share with you talks about that and what it means for you if you are buying and if you are selling. So without any further ado, let's take a look at some of those numbers and what they mean for you. First off, what we're going to look at here is statistics for June of 2018. We're going to compare them year over year from 2017 to 2018 in a multitude of key areas. First, this is Essex County single-family homes and condominiums. Sales were actually down 5.6%, which is, when you look at the numbers, they're fairly similar, with the exception of 59 properties. Median price, we're actually up. This continues to go up, and if you're selling, this is one of those great indicators that you're getting top dollar, because if you look at that statistic below that first box there, the year-to-date 2018 median prices are now 18.8% above the same period in 2005. This is good because you know what? I ended up buying in 2005, and I'm happy to see that that number's gone above that peak year. So that's a good indicator. Inventory, this is actually up 2.4%, which is good because what we need is inventory, specifically for the buyers. We need inventory for them to choose, which has been great for sellers because there's been not a lot of inventory and a lot of buyers, which means top dollar for them. So in this case, the inventory is starting to rise up a little bit. And just as a sense, this is why it's really key to have an agent who has their pulse to the ground, understanding what's happening in the market. There's definitely a shift that's happening in the market where there's some more properties coming on. We're starting to see a loosening of those competitive situations, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and starting to move in the direction of a more balanced market. But we'll talk about that in 1 second. Pending supply, we're actually down 3%, which this means it's the next 30, 60, 90 days of sold properties in the market, and that's a good sign. If there's a good amount, that means that we're going to continue on this trajectory at least until the the winter months. Month supply, which is the biggest indicator of all. If you've been a part of any of these previous episodes of the Freeze Frame Market Snapshot, the month supply inventory is how we measure how the market is doing and who it benefits and who it's actually hurting. You look at a month supply of inventory as a 12-month supply. 6 months is a balanced market. It's good for sellers and it's good for buyers. And when we look at that number and that number drops below 6, that means that it's moving more towards a seller's market. It means that there's less inventory. It means really what that month supply of inventory means is if you were to take a snapshot of the current market right at that moment, it means how long would it take for that current supply of inventory to completely sell out. So in this case, the lower that number gets, what that means is that it's really more competitive for buyers because there's not a lot of inventory, there's a lot of buyers, and sellers are getting top dollar for their properties. So that's why it means that it's a seller's market. If the number was above 6 or even getting closer to a 6, it would mean that it's a balanced market, and if it was above 6, it would mean that there's plenty of inventory, there's not a lot of competition, and buyers are getting the pick of whatever it is that they want. But I don't really necessarily see this going in that direction anytime soon. I think it's going to stay a seller's market, but I think it's going to balance itself off, certainly with the fact that interest rates are rising, which decreases buyer purchasing power. We're going to start to see some inventory come on now through into school season and into the winter months. And I think that that's going to soften up the market. So if you've been out there buying and you've run into situations where you've had multiple offer scenarios, these are terms you're going to hear a lot. Multiple offer scenarios, best and final. If you've run into any of those situations, it means that you've been up against a property that others have been wanting to bid on as well, which is another reason why it's really important to have yourself an agent that's working for you. Specifically, if you're on the buy side, you want a buyer's agent. And if you're listing, you obviously want to list with an agent as well. So let's just go down a little bit further. In year to date, those numbers are just a little bit different. In sales, we're actually minus 3.7%. Median price, this is year to date, is up 6.8% to $395,000, and in total sales we're up 3.4%. So that's a good indicator. Now let's move over to this same statistics but broken down from different segments, because that's a statistic that is the market snapshot as a whole. But within that, there's different pockets of demographics and price point demographics that really indicate, if you're in that price point, how competitive it's going to be. The first one we're going to talk about is under 450,000, and in sales, it's actually down 8.8%. And in inventory, we are actually up 2%. So that's good. There's more inventory coming on in that price point. But here's where it indicates how tough this price point demographic is. We're actually at 1.05 months supply of inventory, which is up, and it actually on a month-to-month overall, it's been going up. But this specifically is where the competitiveness comes in, because it takes literally, in any property that's under 450,000, it takes 1.05 months for that inventory to completely sell out. So if you're looking in this demographic, you have had the hardest time, which is, again, key that you have a realtor that understands some of the tricks to the trade, how to negotiate. Certainly reputation in the industry means a lot. Working with other fellow agents, if they're familiar with the transaction history of that agent, they may be more apt to want to push their clients to work with that agent because they know it's going to be a seamless transaction. All of those factors are part of that. So, but let's also look at the next price point, which is 450,000 to 700,000. And in sales, we're actually down 7%. In inventory, we're actually up 2.7%, and in month supply, we're actually up 10.7%. So this demographic, it lightens up a little bit more. It softens the market up a little bit more because that month supply is moving upward, but it's still very low. The next price point is 700,000 to $1 million, and in sales, we're down 1.9, and in inventory, we're up 17%. Keep in mind that when we see these huge numbers, we're also talking about a smaller average point that we're dealing with, so the numbers aren't as great as if we're talking in the other categories. And in month supply, it's actually up 20%, which is good, but we're still talking about a small amount. It's up to 2.74. And really where it tips over those scales into being a buyer's market, because if we remember that 6 months, anything above that is a buyer's market. If you're looking in $1 million and over, you are actually in a buyer's market. In sales, we're up 77%. In inventory, we're minus 5%, so the inventory is slowing. And in month supply, we're actually down 46, but we're still up quite a bit. But if you look at that, part of that drop in the month supply is the fact that we've got more properties that have come on from 2017 to 2018. So what does this mean for you if you're buying or you're selling? It means that still in this market, you can get top dollar for your property if you're selling. Clearly, the higher you go in price point, that shifts how your property is going to be affected in this market. If you're under 450 and it's in good condition, you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to go quick, and hopefully with the expertise of a good agent and a known pricing strategy associated with it, you'll capitalize on what the market will allow you to bear and getting as much money for your property as possible. When you start to shift up into those different price point demographics, you're talking about it becoming more towards a buyer's market, and it's not until you actually get to $1 million and over that you get into a buyer's market. So again, we're pretty much, for all intents and purposes, still in a seller's market. We're heading into close to when kids are going to go back to school, so everybody's moved into the properties that they need to get into the previous school year. And I think we're going to start to see some more properties come on. So if you've been in the market trying to buy and been having some trouble, you're definitely going to see some lightening of the market and not as much demand. We're feeling that, us agents are feeling that in the field, where we're not seeing as many competitive properties. We're starting to see price reductions on properties, which wasn't happening at all. And we're starting to see that coincide with rising interest rates. But it's definitely important that you find yourself a good agent, one that can navigate all those pitfalls, be really good at contract negotiation, have a great reputation within the industry and a great relationship with all cooperating brokers, and really understands what's happening in the market so that they can maximize your chances of succeeding in a sale. So you know that you guys, if you ever want any more information about these statistics or anything else or any questions that you may have, you know you can always call me or text me at 781-789-5128, or you can visit this guy, the cartoon, at MrLista.com. And until I see you out there, happy house hunting. Bye-bye.